We finally made it. It's been 3 months in the planning. We're on the apron. We have a beautiful Airbus A340 in the background that's going to be taking us to Antarctica, to Fang's Runway. Look at the sunrise just coming up here in Cape Town. It couldn't be better. It's going to be a sunrise departure. I'm excited to speak to the pilot, learn about the operation. How do you actually fly to an ice runway? How does the whole operation work there? Is there an approach in place? Is it going to be a GPS approach, a visual approach? There's probably not going to be an ILS. This is all we're going to figure out in the next couple of minutes. So enjoy, let's get on board. It's been a minute since I last flew on an Airbus A340, so I was really pleased to see this beauty by Highfly and their wonderful cabin crew taking us from Cape Town to Fang Airport in the northern part of Antarctica. We took off from runway 19 and then basically kept that heading for the next 5 hours. The ladies from Highfly served us a delicious meal, and I have to admit it was nice to just be a passenger for a change. So we are now roughly 4 hours into a flight and passing a crucial point on our route, the South Polar Circle, which is at 67 degrees south latitude, meaning this is the point where the sun during European winter time doesn't set below the horizon anymore. So for us Europeans, we're more familiar with the North Polar Circle, during which this time the sun doesn't rise anymore. So any Norwegian, Finnish or Swedish can tell you about their cold and dark winters. It's especially important to me as I've never flown that far south with a 747, and I probably won't do in the near future. It's one of those pilot things which I can now take off from my list. I've crossed the equator, I flew over the North Polar Circle, I flew over the North Pole, and now I'm crossing the South Polar Circle. Wait for it? Yeah, buddy. The flight attendants invited me to join the flight deck crew, Captain Emmanuel and First Officer Miguel, who answered all my questions on how to land a heavy Airbus A340 on ice. So hear for yourself what they had to say. Who do you speak to after you have left Cape Town airspace?
Johannesburg Oceanic.
Okay, all right.
Okay, but that's only for a short time, because within half an hour after you take off from Cape Town, you're already into the Oceanic airspace.
Yeah.
So what do? You took still to Johannesburg Oceanic via HF.
HF, okay.
If we don't get any sort of communication over HF, what we do, we send a message like ops normal to our own company via Acres, and they make sure that the authorities get the message that operations is normal.
Who do you speak to at Fang Runway in terms of ATC?
There is one guy there which obviously is not a controller. Okay, he's not authorized to give you clearance to land or do whatever. He actually gives you a clear to land. He's not authorized to, because he's not a controller. But what he actually means is that the runway is clear.
How do you get the weather information from Fang Runway?
There is a team of meteorologists or something like that of the sort over there that take the readings and everything, and they send them over to Johannesburg, transmits them back to us.
What are the key requirements for the runway and weather conditions at Fang?
Okay, the absolute minimum as cloud base is concerned is the 4,000 feet. If it goes any lower than 4,000 feet, you cannot land. There is no radio aids, there is nothing whatsoever. As far as the runway is concerned, I don't know if you can even call it a runway itself. It's actually ice.
Yeah.
Okay, it's blue ice.
Blue ice.
What these people do, they have these machines. They start working on the runway like a couple of days before we arrive, making sure that it's grooved in order for it to have some sort of a friction. Otherwise, you don't get any friction at all. You just slide on the ice. I mean, you don't want that, of course, obviously.
I would expect the braking coefficient to be poor. It's ice after all.
No, it's not poor. It's not poor. It's actually medium to good. You can actually feel the airplane, decelerate on the runway. You will feel it once we get there.
What are outside air temperature limits?
You don't want a very high temperature.
Yeah.
A good temperature should be around -10 to -6 degrees, because anything above that tends to make the ice melt. If the ice on the runway starts melting, then you should consider different problems like slush, stuff like that. Okay, so the braking coefficient is totally different over there. You don't have the same braking action, and it's a different ball game.
By the way, how long is the runway?
3 kilometers long, 60 meters wide.
Oh wow, that's pretty wide.
It is wide. 2 pads where you make the 180-degree turn to head back, because the parking position is at the very beginning of the runway. The apron.
The apron, yeah.
Yes.
if you want to call it. Is there a parpy or any other visual guides to help you during the approach?
There are some lights on the left side of the runway and on the right side of the runway.
Yeah.
And there is a series of lights on the left side, which is your aiming point. The difficult part is when you have low clouds and everything is white, you cannot tell where the horizon is. One different thing that you get in the meteorological report, that the contrast is good and that horizon is good,
Okay.
or medium,
Okay.
okay, depending on the circumstances. Okay, when it is good, you can tell the ice from the sky. When it is medium or even worse, okay, you cannot tell it. There is a lot of glare coming back, so makes it even more difficult for you to land. It's a demanding situation.
What about the FMS setup? Do you have your own coded approach?
It's like points every 2 miles where you should be at certain altitudes, taken at a certain temperature actually.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, because you have to make the correction.
Correct.
So once you do that, you get to the final point. Of course, all this time you're visual.
Yeah.
It's just a cross-reference because it is a totally visual approach.
What does the landing distance calculation look like?
What you do is you calculate your landing weight,
Yeah.
okay, what you're supposed to have over there
Yeah.
by the time you arrive.
Yeah.
We are working basically toward the maximum landing weight of this aircraft, which is 190 tons. Once you calculate that, you got everything in there. You have the stop margin, you have
Yeah.
the factored landing distance,
Yeah.
and you have the clearance.
What is the recommended auto brake setting for landing on ice?
Usually auto brake medium is what is the standard for landing on this runway. Okay. And for departure, we already calculate everything as if we had like compact ice, this kind of contamination for the departure.
Can you show us your fuel calculations?
Our block fuel, the estimated was 85.7. That gives us the estimated maximum landing weights of 89.5. You know, it's pretty close to the maximum that is structural for the aircraft. It's 19.0. So we carry the most that we can. You see, the extra is always the fuel that we need to come back. So Cape Town is always our main alternate. We have fuel to go there, to come back, to hold, and the 30-minute extra as per law as well.
How much holding fuel do you have for unforeseen weather problems?
We are arriving at Wolfson with 48.2. So if we need to come back to Cape Town, we will need probably around 36 tons. So around 10 tons extra that we have if we need to come back. Yeah. It's pretty much full, yeah.
It was an absolutely wonderful chat because this operation just completely blew my mind. I had so many more questions. Also important to note is that the two of them had to switch the north reference from magnetic to true north because the Earth's magnetic field becomes distorted the closer we got to Antarctica, making the magnetic compass unreliable. Therefore, they switched to true north, which aligns with geographic coordinates on charts, ensuring precise headings and a safe flight operation in these remote areas.
Dear passengers, in 1 hour and 30 minutes we will be landing in Antarctica on Fang runway. It is now time to change into your polar gear. Please be advised that the captain will be adjusting the cabin temperature. Thank you.
In order to acclimatize faster to the cold temperatures of Antarctica, Miguel set the cabin temperature to the coldest possible setting during which we got into our polar gear. Therefore, a huge thank you to Canada Goose for supporting me with all the gear. That Arctic jacket of yours felt like a lightweight mobile radiator. There wasn't a single moment where I felt cold, so hats off to you. Thanks, guys. I think this is a pretty unique video because you don't see pilots getting changed in the aft galley of an Airbus A340. Onwards, let's go. Something that is not to be underestimated is sun protection. There's barely any ozone layer down there, so you really need to make sure that you take good care of your skin. So I got myself some SPF 50 just to put on onto my face and protect myself from the glare and everything. Now, the other thing, which is more or less like my livelihood in terms of work, on my eyes. So you really want to protect your eyes, and that's why they have polarized sunglasses, which even come with these like side temples here to protect sun rays coming in from the side, especially when you're like walking. And yeah, I really need to protect my eyes due to work, obviously. I want to get my 20/20 vision, keep it up, and that's why I got these nice little glacier shades, I want to call them. All right, we're just about to get ready. Oh, I can actually already see Antarctica AIRLINER. Yes, I'm going to show you guys. So we're coming in for descent now, 20 more minutes to go.
Retard. 10, 5.
This. Reverse grid.
We touched down on the 7th continent. My heart was beating out of my chest. It felt like somewhat of a moon landing, and Captain Emmanuel performed an absolute greaser onto the ice runway. As we were waiting for the ground crew to connect the stairs, we all got our passports unofficially stamped by one of the White Desert officials. It's not legally recognized, but it's a cool gesture nevertheless. Emmanuel, thank you very much for the landing. That was a very, very soft landing on ice. I was very impressed by that.
Thank you very much.
Very good. And also, Miguel, thank you very much for being a good pilot monitoring. So, what's the next step for you guys? You're going to head back straight to Cape Town?
In a couple of hours, we shall do the passengers, the cargo,
Okay.
maybe refuel,
Yeah.
depending on the weather, like in Cape Town,
Okay.
and then we're going to head back. Another 5 and 15 hours.
Nice. Thank you very much for bringing me safely to Antarctica, first time for me, so appreciate it.
It was very nice meeting you.
It was a pleasure meeting
Enjoy
you.
your stay here.
I will.
Enjoy it.
Miguel, all the best, and then safe travels home, and I'm sure. After saying my goodbyes to the pilots, it was finally time for me to step out onto the ice. Here we go, Antarctica. I'm a tad nervous, to be honest, stepping on this continent. Ready, set. Yeah, buddy! Woo-hoo! Oh my god! This feels surreal and really, really good. I am happy. I am one happy little Joey right now. I'm enjoying this. I mean, how often do you see an Airbus A340 and 2 piston bullies doing all the ground operations? Once in a lifetime, man. Once in a lifetime. That was it for the first video out of 4 about my trip with White Desert and Canada Goose to Antarctica. In the next episode, I'll be covering the ground operations at Wolfsang Airport, 10 facts you didn't know about operating a plane on ice, followed by an episode I like to call Flying a DC-3 on Steroids through the remoteness of Antarctica. And on that bombshell, don't forget, a good pilot is always learning. Wishing you all the best. Your Captain Joe.